Welcome to today's story of love, life, and betrayal. For more free stories and entertainment from our channel, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe with notifications. Now, let's dive into the food truck betrayal, a story that proves sometimes the most bitter betrayals can lead to the sweetest victories. Maya Wilson stood across the street from Ben's kitchen, watching the long line of customers eagerly waiting for her stolen recipes. The bright red food truck gleamed in the afternoon sun, its success evident in every detail, from the professional signage to the efficient service window, where Ben Comiskey moved with the confidence of a man who had built something special, something that should have been hers. 6 months ago, Maya and Ben had been partners in every sense of the word. Business partners running a small catering company, romantic partners planning a future together, and culinary partners who spent their days perfecting recipes that Maya's grandmother had passed down through 3 generations of Wilson women. Then, everything fell apart in a single devastating week. Maya had discovered Ben meeting secretly with investors, signing paperwork she wasn't included in, and making plans for a food truck business that apparently didn't include her. When she confronted him, Ben had claimed the recipes they'd been using were actually his family's creations, passed down from his Italian grandmother. He'd produced an old cookbook, yellowed with age and written in Italian, that contained variations of every dish Maya thought belonged to her family. The betrayal had been complete and crushing. Not only had Ben stolen her business dreams, but he'd convinced her that she'd been unconsciously plagiarizing his family's culinary heritage for years. Maya had been left with nothing. No business, no boyfriend, no confidence, and worst of all, no certainty about her own identity as a chef. But today, that was all going to change. Maya pulled out her phone and dialed the number she'd memorized weeks ago. Ben's Kitchen, this is Sophie speaking. How can I help you? Hi, I'm calling about the assistant cook position you posted online. Is it still available? Yes. Can you come in for an interview today? We're really swamped and need someone who can start immediately. Maya smiled grimly. I'll be there in 20 minutes. My name is Maria Brown, and I have 5 years of experience in Italian cuisine. The fake identity had been Maya's idea. If Ben wanted to claim her family's recipes as his own, she'd infiltrate his operation and expose him for the fraud he was. She'd spent weeks creating Maria's background, fake references, a fabricated resume, and even a slight accent she'd been practicing. Her plan was simple: get hired, gain Ben's trust, document him using her stolen recipes, and then sabotage his operation from the inside. Maya had dyed her naturally blonde hair dark brown, worn colored contacts to change her blue eyes to brown, and dressed in clothes completely different from her usual style. When she walked up to Ben's food truck, she barely recognized herself in the reflection of the service window. Ben was exactly as she remembered, tall, dark-haired, with those warm brown eyes that had once made her feel like the most important person in the world. Now they just made her angry. Maria, Ben asked, looking up from the grill. Perfect timing. Let me just finish this order and we can talk. Maya watched him work, her heart pounding with a mixture of nervousness and rage. He was using her grandmother's technique for seasoning the chicken, the exact method she'd taught him during countless evenings in their shared kitchen. The audacity was breathtaking. So, Maria, Ben said, stepping closer to the service window, tell me about your experience with traditional Italian cooking. Maya launched into her prepared story, carefully modulating her voice and maintaining eye contact despite wanting to scream at him. But as she spoke, something strange happened. Ben kept nodding and smiling, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of recognition, maybe even sadness. That's perfect, Ben said when she finished. When can you start? Right now, if you need me to, Actually, yes. Sophie, my current assistant, is leaving early today for a family emergency. Can you handle the dinner rush with me? Maya nodded, her heart racing. This was working better than she'd hoped. Within hours, she'd be in position to document everything and begin her revenge. But as the afternoon progressed, Maya began to notice things that didn't fit her narrative of Ben as a calculating thief. He was incredibly generous with his employees, giving Sophie extra money for her family emergency without being asked. He comped meals for elderly customers who seemed to be stretching their budgets. And most confusing of all, he seemed genuinely sad, not like someone who was enjoying his stolen success. Maria, Ben said during a brief lull between customers, "Can I ask you something personal?" Maya tensed. Had he recognized her? Of course. Do you believe that recipes can belong to someone? Like, if your grandmother taught you to make pasta sauce, does that make it your family's sauce, even if thousands of other families make it the same way? The question was so unexpected that Maya almost broke character. What do you mean? Ben looked out at the city street, his expression troubled. I had a business partner once. We used a lot of family recipes in our catering company. She always said they were her grandmother's recipes and I believed her. But after our partnership ended, I found out they were actually my grandmother's recipes from an old cookbook. It made me wonder if she'd been lying to me all along, or if we'd both just learned the same dishes from the same source without knowing it. Maya stared at him, her carefully planned revenge suddenly feeling shaky. What happened to your partner? I don't know, Ben said quietly. I haven't seen her since everything fell apart. Part of me wishes I could talk to her, explain what really happened, but I think she hates me too much to listen. It was only when they were closing up for the night that Maya made her discovery. While Ben was cleaning the grill, Maya opened the small refrigerator to put away ingredients. Behind a stack of containers, she found something that made her blood run cold. A framed photograph of herself and Ben from their catering days, tucked away where customers couldn't see it, but where Ben would notice it every time he opened the fridge. Maria, Ben's voice made her jump. She quickly closed the refrigerator, but not before Ben saw what she'd been looking at. For a long moment, they stared at each other in silence. Then Ben smiled sadly and said, "Hello, Maya." Maya's carefully constructed identity crumbled in an instant. "You knew?" "I knew the moment you walked up to the truck," Ben admitted. "Different hair, different eyes, different clothes, but I could never mistake the way you hold a spatula or the way you check the seasoning by smell instead of taste." Maya felt like an idiot. "Then why did you hire me? Why didn't you just tell me to leave?" "Because I've been hoping for 6 months that you'd give me a chance to explain what really happened. I figured if you were willing to dye your hair and create a fake identity just to work with me again, maybe you'd eventually be willing to listen to the truth." Maya crossed her arms defensively. "The truth? You mean the truth about how you stole my recipes and left me with nothing?" "Maya, I never stole anything from you, and I never wanted to leave you with nothing." Ben pulled a worn notebook from his apron pocket. "This belonged to my grandmother, Elena Comiskey. She died when I was 12, but she taught me to cook before she passed. Every recipe we used in our catering business is in this book." Maya took the notebook with trembling hands. The pages were indeed yellowed with age, and the Italian writing was faded but legible. As she flipped through it, her heart sank. There were the meatballs, the pizzas, the bolognese sauce, all the dishes she'd thought were her family's exclusive creation. "But my grandmother taught me these same recipes," Maya said weakly. "I know, and I think I know why." Ben pulled out his phone and showed her a black and white photograph. "This is my grandmother Elena when she was young. Does she look familiar?" Maya gasped. The woman in the photograph bore a striking resemblance to Maya's own grandmother, Helen Wilson. Same bone structure, same smile, same kind eyes. "Maya, I think our grandmothers knew each other. I think they worked together, maybe even learned to cook together. After you left, I did some research. Your grandmother Helen worked at the same restaurant as my grandmother Elena in the 1960s, Romano's Italian Kitchen on Division Street. Maya's mind reeled. That's impossible. My grandmother never mentioned knowing anyone named Elena. Maybe they had a falling out. Maybe something happened that made them stop talking. But Maya, look at this. Ben showed her another photograph. This one from a newspaper clipping dated 1965. Two young women stood in front of Romano's Italian Kitchen, holding a trophy for Best Traditional Italian Cuisine. The caption read, Helen Murphy and Elena Rossi, winners of the Portland Culinary Competition. Maya stared at the photograph. Her grandmother had indeed been Helen Murphy before she married Maya's grandfather and became Helen Wilson. And there she was, arm in arm with Elena Rossi, both of them beaming with pride. They were friends, Maya whispered. They were cooking partners. More than that, Ben said gently. I think they created these recipes together. That's why we both learned them. Why they mean so much to both our families. They're not your grandmother's recipes or my grandmother's recipes. They're our grandmother's recipes. Maya felt her carefully nurtured anger beginning to crumble. But then why did you start the food truck without me? Why didn't you include me in the business plan? Ben's expression grew pained. Maya, I tried to include you. I begged you to be my partner in the food truck business. But every time I brought it up, you said you weren't interested in mobile food service. You wanted to open a traditional restaurant. Maya's memory shifted, and she realized with horror that Ben was right. She had dismissed the food truck idea multiple times, insisting that their future lay in brick-and-mortar establishments. But you were meeting with investors behind my back, she protested weakly. I was meeting with investors because I thought I was protecting our catering business, Ben explained. Someone had been sabotaging our operations, canceling our bookings, spreading rumors about our food quality, even calling health inspectors with false complaints. I thought if I could get the food truck up and running quickly, we'd have a backup income source while we figured out who was trying to destroy us. Maya's world tilted completely off its axis. Someone was sabotaging us? Maya, didn't you ever wonder why all our problems started at the same time? Why we suddenly lost 3 major clients in 1 week? Why the health inspector showed up 4 times in 2 months after never bothering us before? Maya had wondered, but she'd been so focused on blaming Ben that she hadn't looked for other explanations. Do you know who was doing it? Ben hesitated. I have a pretty good idea, but Maya, you're not going to like the answer. Before Ben could explain further, Maya's phone rang. The caller ID showed her sister's name. Maya, where are you? Jessica's voice was sharp with worry. You said you'd be home for dinner hours ago. I'm sorry, Jess. I got caught up with something. I'll be home soon. Well, hurry up. I made your favorite, that amazing marinara sauce recipe you taught me. I'm thinking of adding it to the menu at my restaurant. Maya's blood ran cold. Your what? I said, I'm thinking of adding your marinara sauce to my menu. It's so much better than anything my head chef has come up with. Why shouldn't I profit from having a sister who's a culinary genius? Maya looked at Ben, who was watching her with a mixture of sympathy and resignation. Suddenly, all the pieces fell into place. Jess, have you been using my recipes at your restaurant this whole time? Of course, you never said I couldn't. Besides, it's just family recipes, right? What's the big deal? Maya's mind raced back over the past year. Jessica's struggling restaurant had suddenly become successful right around the time Maya and Ben's catering business had started having problems. Jessica had been asking lots of questions about their clients, their schedules, their plans. Maya, Ben said quietly, everything okay? Maya hung up on her sister and looked at Ben with new understanding. It was Jessica She's been sabotaging us and stealing our recipes for her restaurant. Ben nodded sadly. I figured it out about a month after you left. She'd been calling our clients, telling them we were unreliable. She'd been tipping off health inspectors with anonymous complaints, and she'd been taking our recipes and using them at her place. Why didn't you tell me? Because she's your sister, and you were already devastated. I thought if I could prove it without involving you, maybe I could fix everything without destroying your relationship with your family. Maya felt like she was seeing her entire life through a new lens. So when you showed me that cookbook and said the recipes were your family's, I was trying to protect you from the truth about Jessica. I thought if you believed the recipes belonged to my family, you wouldn't feel as betrayed by your sister using them. Ben's voice was full of regret. It was stupid and it backfired completely. Instead of protecting you, I made you think I was the betrayer. Maya sank onto the small stool in the corner of the food truck. I've spent 6 months hating you. I dyed my hair and created a fake identity to get revenge on you. I was going to sabotage your business. I know, Ben said gently, and I would have let you if that's what you needed to do to feel better. But why? Why would you sacrifice your business for me after everything I put you through? Ben was quiet for a long moment. Because I love you, Maya. I never stopped loving you. And because this business should have been ours together from the beginning. I've been saving half the profits for you, hoping someday you would come back and we could be partners again. Maya looked around the successful food truck with new eyes. You've been saving half the profits for me? Every penny. It's all in a separate account with your name on it. Ben pulled out a bank statement and handed it to her. I never wanted to steal from you, Maya. I wanted to build something with you. Maya stared at the bank statement, her vision blurring with tears. The account contained more money than she'd made in the past 6 months combined. There's something else, Ben said quietly. He opened a cabinet and pulled out a folder thick with documents. Business plans for Wilson Comiskey Catering, mobile and traditional services, everything we talked about doing together, all planned out and ready to go. Maya opened the folder and saw their shared dreams laid out in meticulous detail. Food trucks and brick-and-mortar restaurants, catering services and cooking classes, even a line of packaged sauces featuring their grandmother's recipes, with both family names prominently displayed. You kept planning our future even after I left? I kept hoping you'd come back, Ben admitted. Every day for 6 months, I've been hoping you'd walk through that service window and give me a chance to explain. Maya looked at Ben, really looked at him, for the first time in months. She saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the sadness he'd been carrying, the hope he was trying not to show. This wasn't the face of a man who'd betrayed her. This was the face of a man who'd been trying to protect her, even at the cost of his own happiness. Ben, I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. I should have trusted you. You had every reason not to trust me after I lied about the cookbook. I handled everything wrong, Maya. I was trying to protect you, but I ended up hurting you worse. Maya stood up and moved closer to him. What do we do now? Ben smiled for the first time since she'd arrived. Now we decide if we want to be partners again. Business partners, I mean. The other stuff, we can figure that out later. Maya looked around the food truck that should have been theirs, at the bank statement with her name on it, at the business plans that proved Ben had never given up on their shared dreams. Then she looked at the man she'd spent 6 months blaming for ruining her life and realized he'd actually been trying to save it. Partners, she said firmly, but first, I have a phone call to make. Maya pulled out her phone and dialed her sister's number. When Jessica answered, Maya's voice was calm but steely. Jess, we need to talk. Tonight. And you need to bring the recipes you stole from me. along with a list of every client you sabotaged and every lie you told, because tomorrow, you're going to start making things right. The conversation that followed was difficult and painful, but ultimately healing. Jessica confessed to everything: the sabotage, the stolen recipes, the lies she'd told to destroy Maya and Ben's business so she could benefit from their success. She'd been jealous of Maya's culinary talent and resentful that their grandmother had shared recipes with Maya, but not with her. But Jessica also agreed to make amends. She would stop using the stolen recipes, apologize to the clients she'd lied to, and help Maya and Ben rebuild their reputation in the Portland food scene. 3 months later, Maya stood in front of a shiny new food truck painted in cheerful yellow and red, with Wilson Comiskey Kitchen written in elegant script across the side. Ben stood beside her, both of them wearing matching aprons that read, "Honoring our grandmother's legacy." They'd kept Ben's original truck and added Maya's, creating a mobile empire that served both traditional Italian cuisine and innovative fusion dishes. Their catering business was booming again, and they'd just signed a lease on a small restaurant space where they planned to offer cooking classes and host family-style dinners. But more importantly, they'd rebuilt their trust in each other. The romantic relationship was still a work in progress. They were taking things slow, learning to communicate better, and making sure their business partnership was solid before they risked their hearts again. As the first customers approached their trucks, Maya thought about the long journey from revenge to redemption. She'd learned that sometimes the person you think is your enemy is actually fighting the same battle you are, just from a different side. And sometimes the most delicious revenge isn't revenge at all. It's forgiveness, served with a side of second chances. The Wilson Comiskey legacy was just beginning, built on the foundation of 2 women who'd been friends and partners decades ago, and carried forward by their grandchildren who'd found their way back to each other through food, love, and the courage to trust again. Thanks for listening to today's story of love, life, and betrayal. For more free stories and entertainment from our channel, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe with notifications.